Folks, today, what's this all about? So, in my life as a recruiter, in my life as a career coach, I noticed that people really struggle with congruency between what they want, what they've done, what they put in their resume, which is a marketing document, not a work history document, and then taking all of this, moving it into the interview stories, making those stories powerful, making those stories congruent, making those stories just really powerful. And not only that, all of this stuff that you do in your life is not just about getting another job, it's also about getting promoted within your company. So I want to make sure that I can help you get that power, get that congruence, and get that command, even if it's the words on the paper, so to speak, in the resume, or if it's in the interview stories. And there's some other things that I think go along with this, in that when you are actually discussing your background and your stories with others, and let's just say you're talking with interviewers or you're talking with people in your own organization. You're talking with interviewers and you're trying to convince them that you know what you're doing. And it's difficult because they have no emotional attachment to what it is that you've been through. You need to do everything that you can to bring life to your stories, to give them a vivid view so that they can truly experience it. Don't we all love to listen to people who have complete command and control of what they're communicating? And then what about when you go for your promotions in your company? You know, your boss, you might think your boss truly understands the rippling effect and the value that you've created through what it is that you've done. But it's rare that someone can know that. And you need to know that. And oftentimes you don't even know what's actually happened as a result of you doing what you did. And one of the things that what we're going to learn today and what I'm going to teach you today is about this tool that I'm going to give you. It will help you create context for people who are listening to you. And the other thing that it will do is it will give them perspective. And one of the other things that it will do is it will help you reflect on what you've done and see your own accomplishments. What do I often teach you? I know I say this quite often. It makes no difference how successful you are. You will never feel successful unless you reflect on what you've done. Why? We are always looking forward. We are always looking at the gaps. We are always looking at where we are not. And you got to stop that. You got to pause, and you have to collect the insight, reflect, get the information, actually look at it to see how far you've come. It'll make you feel better. Wait, and there's more, right? As if this little tool I'm going to teach you, if that isn't enough, we're also going to check off a number of interview answers in and of themselves when it comes to questions like talking about challenges that you've overcome, failures that you've overcome, growth that you've been through, things of this nature. The tool I'm going to talk with you about is also going to help you just in and of itself overcome those interview questions. That's a lot of stuff to unpack, but this is a very simple tool. I'm going to walk through it. You're going to wish you'd had this sooner, maybe when you were 22. And if you're 22, you're going to be loving me today because I'm going to save you a headache for the next 45 years of your life or however long you're going to work. This is something that I think everybody should have. So buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think everything is okay. The connection is now green. It was burping at me before, but everything looks good. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, some of you have heard of this tool before. It's called my Career Achievements Journal. We'll give you the download here at the end. Let me walk through it with you right now. Now, I've talked to you in the past through many of the interview videos I've created, the interview book I wrote that's sitting back there in that little pile over there, interview intervention. I've talked to you about how to tell a story. I've also talked to you in other places about the 8 great topic areas that employers care about. We're not going to go into all those, but there are 8 areas, things such as raising revenue, reducing costs, the biggies that employers care about, better marketing, market awareness, customer service, those kinds of things. And whenever you have stories that you write about in your resume, or accomplishments that you write about in your resume, or stories that you tell in the interviewing process, these are music to employers' ears. So you got ways to tell stories. I've given you assets for this. You've got the topic areas that you should be covering. But one of the most important things about telling a story is having the details so that you can paint a vivid picture in the listener or the reviewer or the reader's mind of what's actually transpiring. And what a lot of us do is we don't collect those pieces of information. So one of the great practices that I teach my high performance coaching clients and people that want to be the best at what they do is everything that you do, you need to have a diary or a journal, so to speak, of the information and the things that are contextual for what it is you're doing, what it is you've accomplished, what it is you've learned, and the benefits that other people have attained, and all of these pieces of information. Now, we're going to walk through 14 of the key pieces of information that I believe you need to have. These are the assets that, as best as possible, wherever you are in your life right now, wherever you are in your career right now, if you're pulling your resume together, you want to go back and you want to think about these 14 things. And going forward, you want to capture these 14 things for everything that you do. And I'll break this down specifically as to what I mean. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, I think there are 14 key pieces of information that do all those things that I said kind of in the preamble here, right? They bring a vivid color to your stories. They help give power and details to your resume bullets. They give power and details to your resume stories. What are these 14 things? So let's talk about them. So number one is the project that you're working on or projects you've worked on. And let's be specific about what I mean by project. Some of us have a job where we do the same thing day in and day out for an extended period. Maybe we're on the manufacturing line. Maybe we're making the widget, right? Maybe we're answering the customer service call, right? And one after another, after another, after another. That's a project. So whatever it is, the widget you make, you might have made 10,000 widgets. That's a project. It is a unique, contained set of activities that you do. Some projects are a minute over and over and over. Some projects are a year long. Some projects are a week long. Some projects are 3 days long. The time frame is irrelevant. The most important thing is whatever the project is that you're working on, document it. Are you a customer service rep who's helping serve the customers? That's a project. But are you also that same customer service rep who's optimizing a new way for all the customer service reps to handle certain things? Did you streamline a process? Right? That's a project. Those are separate initiatives. So you want to make sure that you're capturing what your projects are. Okay, that's the first thing, right? And so for some of you, you'll be writing in your career achievements journal every week. For others, you'll be writing in it once a year. But the most important thing is that you're capturing it on a project by project basis. That's the first thing. Second thing is, are there any statistics that you can gather? Now, statistics can come in a number of different forms. So there's statistics that give me an image of what's happening. It was a very large construction project that we were implementing. Okay, it was $3 million. That's a statistic. There were 50 people that were contributing to the project. That's a statistic. There were 4 different groups. That's a statistic. Okay, these are statistics that are painting the order of magnitude that I can see the size of the project. The construction project was done on 4 city blocks. That's a statistic. Okay, those are statistics. And there are other kind of statistics, but the statistics I'm talking about here is anything that will create context for magnitude. Okay, so this is describing how big, small, widespread, and so forth. We're going to get into other statistics like benefits. That's a separate thing. But any statistics that will give me some kind of idea, some kind of visual of magnitude. All right, next thing. What's the problem? What are you trying to improve, enhance, reduce, eradicate, fix? Anything that we do is we're always solving a problem. Anything that you do, any minute of any day, is solving a problem. Okay, what the problem is could change. Right now, what problem am I solving? I'm solving a customer service problem. I'm solving a marketing problem, right? I am marketing me, so you get to know me better. That's a byproduct of what I'm doing. I'm doing community service. That's a problem I'm solving. I'm helping you and all the 153 of you that made it here early, right? So that's a problem I'm solving. So what is it that you're doing? You have to give context. Imagine, isn't it great in an interview when you say to somebody says, well, Andy, how did you implement that project? I say, hey, well, actually, the key issue was there was this problem where our customer service time was slow. So yes, I was the person who came in to implement this new technology to make the response time, the pickup time faster, the IVR time faster, the customer services response time to fix the solution if somebody dialed through to get a rep time. What was the problem I was solving? What did I have to overcome? The big business problem. Why was what you were doing, did that even matter? Okay, that's what you're trying to collect. What was the problem or problems you were trying to solve? Okay, if you are a sales rep, you are solving a revenue problem by selling more, kind of thing. Okay, all right. Number 3. Number 4. Well, who was at the party? Who was at the party? Who'd you do it for? Who was involved in helping you build this thing, sell this thing, streamline this thing? Right? Who contributed to it? Were there partnerships? Were there other companies? Were there vendors? Was there a joint task force? Was there a steering committee? Were you the chair of the steering committee? Who was on the steering committee? These little details. You may not call it out right in an interview or write it all out in a resume. But can you imagine being in an interview and saying, well, I actually chaired a steering committee which had 5 different executives that were representing each of the constituents, and we had somebody externally, we had somebody from the board and whatever. These bring great context to what it is that you were doing. And just by explaining who was in that committee, I start to draw conclusions about your abilities. Dang. Right? All those people? You chaired all those people every other week? You must have good communication skills. You must have good customer service skills. You must have good senior executive presence. This is what shoots through people's heads, right? Remember, time compressed interview, right? Who was involved? You will be shocked at how many entities you actually interact with, okay? All right. Well, cards are sticking. Oh, dang. Let's just take all the cards. Here we go. What was the solution? How'd you solve it? So here's what I did. Here's how. You hear me say, right? First I did this, then I did this, then I did this. What were the steps that you went through? You can talk about them at a high level. That construction project, what'd you do? Get architects, put the blueprint together. Then we designed the stuff. We ordered all the material. Right? Whatever it is, here's the step. What is this also that you often hear me say when I'm talking about having complete command of your interview responses and the 3 different kind of questions you can be asked in an interview? Behavioral interview questions, right? Tell me about a time when. You've got project-specific questions. How did you do that? That's those steps right there. And then, hey, we're in the future and I got a situation for you. The here's how is your outline. It's your template for how you're going to answer those. Okay? So what was the solution? So what did you actually do? Right? What were the steps? What was the sequence? What was the process? Number 5. What else? Well, what happened? Right? What happened as a result of you doing what you did? How many times have you heard me say this? You're writing a resume bullet? That's what you did? Who cares? What happened as a result of you doing that? You managed the customer service team. Great. What else? What happened? Did customer service go up? You could have managed customer service team. Customer service goes down, right? That's bad. So call times go down, response time go down, customer satisfaction survey scores go up, kind of thing. So what actually happened? For those of you that are being forced to use the dreaded STAR technique to answer a behavioral interview question, this is the R, okay? Or if you go to the Andrew LaCivita School of Behavioral Interview Responsing, this is the outcome, okay? So that's another thing. What actually happened? If you don't know what actually happened, go figure out what actually happened. And just because you stopped somewhere in the chain doesn't mean when you were finished you had an outcome. You could have created the casing for something that then was sold. The selling of that thing is the outcome, not the casing and I finished it. Okay? So what was the outcome? All right. The benefits. Who benefited and how exactly did they benefit? So I was supporting the customers. I was supporting an internal team. They benefited by having ready-made documentation so that they could take that and go and do something with it. Whatever happened, I made their lives easier, right? I made them more money. I saved them money. I increased market awareness. I increased the search engine optimization and our view count went up, right? Kind of thing. Our lead gen went up. Whatever it is, but what happened and who did it happen for and what was it, the delta that you took it from and to? This is the benefits. This is the first piece of information in your resume bullet. Okay, it's the first piece of information in your resume bullet. All right, so that's the benefits. That's number 7. And then, what challenges did you encounter as you went through the process? So I'm not talking about what was the challenge. That was the initial problem. The customer service response time was slow. That's the problem you were ultimately trying to solve by implementing a new customer service system. It's the challenges that occurred along the way. So we had this problem. I was trying to improve the system that we were using so that our customer service response times were quicker, our answers were always more accurate, and so on and so forth. That's the business problem. But then as I was doing that, the dang software was late. That's a challenge that I encountered during the doing. This is what I'm talking, bumps in the road of the project is different than what was the problem you were ultimately overlay trying to solve. Okay? What were those challenges? Tell me about a time when you overcame a challenge. Okay? That's what I mean by in and of itself. Just having the challenges and notating them is important. Well, don't just tell me what the challenge was. You got to tell me how you fixed it. Okay? So what did I do? So there was this problem that occurred. The vendor was late releasing the software. Version 1.8 that was going to have that enhancement that we were relying on September 1st when we wanted to go live wasn't there. Great. What'd you do? Well, I actually had a risk plan that had risk mitigating factors to try to help the vendor make sure they met their deadline. But we also had a call date and a contingency plan in the event I wasn't able to get that. So because I'm such a badass project manager, I had all that in place. So when I ran and encountered that challenge where they were delayed, we had a backup patch that we were able to put in that would not delay our release date, and then all the data that was being implemented into the patch was auto-integrated once the new system upgrade was made. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, how did you overcome it? Think about how awesome you sound. What did you just say? I know how to manage risk. I know how to be ready for stuff that can go wrong. I know how to think forward. I know how to anticipate stuff. I know that some things are going to go wrong. Nothing ever goes according to plan exactly. Not the bigger the project, the more things that are going to go wrong. Boom. How'd you overcome it? All right, where are we at now? Number 10. What would you have done differently? In any way, shape, or form. Maybe I wouldn't have done that project at all. Maybe I would have I would have actually delayed the implementation. I would have optimized it this way. I would have included more features. I would have whatever. Now that it's done, what would you have done differently? What would you have done differently, you individually? Okay? And then, what did your company learn? What does your company know now that it didn't know before you started the project? By the way, as you go through these for yourself, now, 14 for 14 is great, but you don't have to go 14 for 14 in every single project that you do. Not everything would apply. I'm giving you the kitchen sink, okay? But what did your company learn? What does your company know now? My company knows after implementing that marketing system that they need to go through a two-step process instead of a one-step process when it comes to these kind of products, because these kind of products are more conceptually difficult for potential buyers to wrap their mind around, so they need more nurturing. We didn't know that before. We thought we could go right to the sale, whatever. Whatever it was, what did they learn? What do you know? What do you know now? How about you? How about you, baby? What can you do now that you could not do at the start of that project? New skills with a Z, right? Like, what new skills do you have that you can do now that you couldn't do? I got news for you. Number 12. If your number 12 is not like a good list, you're in a job where you're not really growing. Okay? So, and especially for somebody who's working on something for a year, do you know I actually keep a daily listing, and anything that I learn on a given day or anything I accomplish for a first time ever, I do. That thing's long, and I'm old, okay? So think about that, right? So what can you do now skills-wise that you could not do? Can you see how depressed you will be if there isn't something here, but can you see how happy you will be if there is a bunch of stuff here? This is what reflection is about. This is a component about reflection. Racking up the wins, right? All right, those skills. Company 2. How did the company improve? So what can the company do now that it couldn't at the start of the project? Okay, now you're making a widget over and over and over again, but can you make the widget better? What can the company do now? Well, the company can fix it less because it doesn't break as much. That's fine. But what else can the company do? Sometimes the company can do leaps and bounds things. Sometimes the company is rolling out a whole new arm of the company. Sometimes it's rolling out new products, new services, better ways to handle things. I have to spend less time in the cost areas. I get to spend more time in the relationship development or the sales areas or whatever. So think about the company's development. All right, think bigger than yourself. And number 4, what would you say were your greatest accomplishments in the doing of the project? Now, some of you say to me, well, Annie, I got this great stuff that I did, but we never implemented it because the company ran out of money. The company slashed the budget. The company did this or that. The company let all the people go. But it was real victory because I lived it for 14 months. How do I... Well, okay, these are still victories for you to talk about, for you to write about. But what were the big victories for you? What would you claim victory for? For you personally, for the company, just any which way. So it's not just what skills did I develop, but what total victories would you claim as a result of doing those projects? All right, so I'm actually not going to recap that because I actually have a download like this that is similar to the one I gave you yesterday, except this one lays out all the 14 areas. Now, here's action item. Here's what I would do. Number 1, take the damn thing. If you're in the job search coaching program, you don't need it. If you're in my resume writing workshop, you don't need it, because all this and in the interview collection of courses, you don't need it because you already have this and you actually have more, but you can grab it if you want. You should create some vehicle I don't care if it's a diary. I don't care if it's a spreadsheet. I don't care if it's a Word doc. I don't care if it's an Evernote or whatever the fad app of the day is. Just some way for you to collect this information. Now, if you are in job search mode right now, and even if you're not, it makes no difference. When you look back at your history, what were your most prominent projects that you worked on? And you need to, I know what you're going to be saying to me, well, Andy, I can't remember all that. Okay, well, take a shot. Remember what you can. Estimate what you can't. Remember, the most important thing about storytelling and sharing it in job interviews and in your resume is that you can substantiate your claims, not whether it was, 1.5 million or 1.2 million. I really don't care. It's $1 million and some odd dollar project. It's $1 million and some odd dollar benefit. How did you get to that? How did you implement that? And if it sounds reasonable, that's all we need. Now, if you're inside your organization and you're working toward promotions, if you are not capturing this information, you're going to have a hard time explaining yourself when it comes time to make your case for a promotion. Or what about the salary increase? What about the pay raise, right? For those of you who are interviewing, this is how you make your case. This is the influence that I had. This is the impact that I make. These are really, really important details. And imagine I'm sitting across from you and you're spouting this stuff off. Well, Andy, let me give you context. We had this big problem. It was over in this region. And here's what we did. There were 7 countries involved. And, right? Doesn't that sound way better than, well, that was over in Europe and I can't really remember all the countries that were involved and what the problems were, but I implemented this system that made it easier for, right? These are 2 totally different people, right, that we're looking at in an interview. So you need to be able to make your case. So grab this achievements journal and then go back in time, start pulling together the details and the content as best you can. Okay? And then going forward, make sure you keep a running list of the different projects that you're doing. You can see how much easier this will be if you're doing it as you go through it, right? And week to week, look back, have a little reflection exercise with yourself at the end of the week. What happened? Are we on track? What am I noticing? What were some of my firsts? All that good stuff. All right, hope you enjoyed that. If you are here with me live, we're going to go to the Q&A here in a minute. If you're watching this on a recording, I'll see you next week.